Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into very important topic Python database connectivity. You will learn how to connect your Python programs to a database and also perform basic operations like insert, read, update and delete, also known as CRUD operations. So basically before starting with Python database connection, we need to understand the meaning of database. Okay. So when we talk about any database, it is nothing but a structured collection of data that is stored in an electronic device. Then data can be available in different formats. It can be text, it can be video, it can be image or in any other format. If we talk about the formats of data, so data are categorized into two types, structured data formats and unstructured data format. So if we see structured data format, in this data is stored in proper format, that is tabular format we can say. So here CSV, Excel, these are the examples of structured data format. Then if we talk about unstructured data formats, so here we can store the data which will be available in unstructured format. So like PDF, which is nothing but a document format, then .jpg, which is nothing but a image, MP4, which is video file, MP3, which is nothing but a audio file. So these are the examples of unstructured format of data. Now when we talk about the database in our case, so that data we need to store in the data in particular format. Like one simple example we can take before going to the coding. So let's quickly understand what database connectivity means. So when we say Python database connectivity, we are talking about how Python program communicates with the database such as MySQL or SQLite to store and retrieve data. So these are the most important operations, that is we need to store the data as well as we need to retrieve the data from the database. Basically in this particular practical or implementation, we are handling the structured format of data which is available in tabular format, that is nothing but a rows and columns format of data. So we'll use SQLite, which is very close to Python, okay, which is lightweight, which is available built in Python. No server installation also needed for SQLite. So for database handling, we need database management systems. It is nothing but a software which is used to manage data from the database. Then this particular software is designed to effectively manage, organize and retrieve data in structured manner. So this DBMS system allow user to create, then modify and query database while ensuring data integrity, security and efficient data access. This is the role of database management system in any database server. So here when we talk about database, SQL is the most famous database management system, that is structured query language. It is standard language for accessing, manipulating and also in relational database. Relational database stores data in form of tables and NoSQL database in the form of key value pairs. So examples of relational database are MySQL, Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, PostgreSQL, Snowflake. These are the examples of relational database management systems. And for NoSQL, it stores the data in the form of key value pairs. So MongoDB, Cassandra, DynamoDB, these are the examples of NoSQL database management systems. When we talk about SQL, it is a standard query language for storing, manipulating and retrieving data in the databases. It stands for structured query language. So it lets you access and manipulate different data from the databases. What SQL can do? SQL can query the database and can perform different operations like if we just see different operations that can be performed with the help of SQL are execute query against the database, then it can retrieve the data, it can insert the records, it can update the records, delete records, create new database, create new tables. These are the operations those can be performed or executed by the SQL on the dataset or database. Then when we talk about different SQL commands, so these are the different SQL commands. First is select, which extracts data from the database. Second, we are having update command. As the name, it updates the data in the database which is already stored. Delete command, it will delete data from the database. Insert into it will insert new records or data in the database. Create database, it is used to create the new database. Alter database, it modifies the database. Create table for creating new table. Alter table for modification of the table, and drop table which will delete the table. These are the different SQL commands. Now on any data we can perform CRUD operations. So CRUD stands for create, read, update and delete. So we can create the database, we can read from the database, we can update that particular data available in the database, and we can also delete the entries or records available in the database. So these are the basic operations that can be performed over any database. Then moving forward, we'll talk about the SQLite. As we know that we can use SQL and MySQL also, but SQLite is inbuilt available in the Python. That's why we'll opt for this SQLite for the database along with the Python. So it is a C language library which is built using C language, which implements small, fast, self-contained, high-level, full-featured SQL database engine. SQLite, it is mostly used database engine in the world. Then it is built into all mobile phones and most computers, and comes bundled inside countless other applications that people use every day. So mobile applications as well as desktop application, we are having this SQLite database. After that, there are different data types. When we deal with the SQL queries, we need to have, along with the query, we'll also have data types. So we need to decide what kind of data we need to insert, we need to update, delete, or perform any operations over the data. Before that, we need to specify the type of data. So these are the types of data for the given data. First is null. So null means it will not store any type of any value. It will not contain any value. Second, integer. We already aware about integer, and then real, which is nothing but a floating point numbers. We can say text data, which is nothing but a string. We can store the textual information or textual data using this text data type. Then we are having blob, which is nothing but a binary large object. It is nothing but a group of data stored exactly as it was entered. So whenever we want to store a group of data, so that at that time we can use this data type, that is blob. Then as we have talked about SQL commands, these are the different SQL commands: create, select, insert, update, delete and drop. So these are divided into different types. Those types are nothing but a DDL, DML and DCL. So when we talk about DDL, it is data definition language which will define the data. Okay, so what are the queries that support to data definition language? First, we are having create, which will create new table, which will be used to give view of the table and other objects which are available in the database. Then alter command, which will be used to modify an existing database object like table. Then we are having drop query, which will be used to delete the table, which will delete entire table, a view of the table or other object in the database. So these are the three queries which are used in database and which are categorized under data definition language. Then data manipulation language. Here we need to manipulate the data, we need to perform operations over the data. For that we are having these three queries: insert, update and delete. Insert will be used to create the records or rows in the table. Update, it will modify the record, and delete, it will delete the individual records whatever we specify. Then data query language. So in this we are having a query, that is select query, which will be used to retrieve certain records from one or more tables, which will give us a complete view of our table and the records which are available in that table. Other than this, again we are having DCL, data control language, which are used to check whether the particular transaction is executed properly or not. Then SQL database with the Python. So we'll understand the approach, how we are going to connect with the particular database with the help of Python. So here, if you just observe, I have written the steps. I have mentioned few steps which can be used as an approach to connect with the database. Okay. First of all, first thing we need to do is to import the SQLite 3 module in the Python. Now many times it happens that we need to install, as it is inbuilt. Sometimes we need to install it externally, like there is a command pip install that we'll see later on. So before importing we need to install this SQLite 3 module in the Python. So while writing a program for connecting with the database, so we need to import this particular SQLite 3 package or module. Second, connect to the database by creating the database. So for that we are having this particular syntax: connection object, this is nothing but an object that we are going to create, is equal to SQLite3 dot connect, and then inside parentheses, inside double quotes, we are having this database name. So whatever name we want to give, we can provide that name, dot db. Okay, so in this way we are creating this connection object here. So we have, what we have done in this particular line, we have first of all created this database. If database already exists, then connection will be created. Okay, and if database is not available, then it will create database of this name .db file, and then will connect with the particular database, and it will store that particular connection object inside this variable. Then next step, when we talk about create the cursor object, it is intermediate object. It is not compulsory to create this cursor object, but it is good to establish the connection with the database. So here what we are doing, connection object is that we have created in the previous step. Dot cursor is the class which is available inside the SQLite 3 package. So we are creating cursor object here. Now whatever operations we are going to perform, we have to fire the queries on this particular connection object. Okay, so which is also called as cursor object. So we'll write the SQL query that can be executable. So what is the syntax for that? Cursor object that we have created in the previous step, dot execute. We need to write the execute. There is no need to write this script actually here, and inside the bracket we can pass the query that we want to fire or execute on the database. Then next, again execute the cursor object inside parenthesis, we can provide the particular SQL statement or query. And then whenever we want to fetch the data from the table in the database, at that time there is a function that is fetch all, which is available in cursor object. So using this cursor object we can fetch all the records from the database or from the tables. Okay, so this is the approach how we can establish the connection with the database, and then execute the SQL queries on the database to insert data, update data and delete data, as well as to view the data from the table. So when we want to use this SQLite 3, we can install, the command is pip install db -SQLite 3 with the help of this for Jupyter Notebook also and for Google Colab also. But what is the difference? Whenever you are using Jupyter Notebook or command prompt for installation of package, there is no need to provide this exclamatory mark. Okay, so this exclamatory mark we use only while installation in the Google Colab. After that, how to import the packages? Import SQLite 3. This is the package that we are going to import. Then along with this SQLite 3, there might be chances that other packages we can import like pandas and numpy, that we'll see later on for what purpose we are importing those packages. So how to create database and connection? So first of all, when we talk about the connection object, okay, so we need to use this particular syntax, that is SQLite 3. Let me start. Okay. So here, if we talk about the connection object, this is our connection object con that we are creating. We are using connect method, which is available in SQLite 3 module or package. Okay, so SQLite 3 dot connect. So inside this function, we need to pass the database name, and what is the extension for the file? Dot db is the extension for that database file. It will create the database file and will establish the connection with that file and store that particular connection string inside this con object. So whenever we want to execute the queries, we'll directly fire the queries. We can directly fire the queries on this connection object con.execute. Okay, it will execute the SQLite query. Then next is a create table. So this is the syntax to create the new table in our database. So what we do whenever we want to create a table, this is the syntax. We write create in table and table name. There will be parenthesis, opening parenthesis here and closing parenthesis here. Okay. Then inside that, whatever columns we need in our table, that we need to mention. So column name here, then data type of column, and then property. We'll understand with the example. So these columns are nothing but attributes that we mention inside the table. So this is the query that can be used to create the table. Next query is the insert query, where we can see the syntax of insert query. Here it is connection object dot execute. Okay, so execute is the method which is available inside this connection object, or we can say SQLite 3. Inside this parenthesis we need to write the query. So what is the query? Insert into, this is nothing but a table name. Inside first parenthesis we need to pass the attribute names, that like for example we are having ID, name, roll number, address and class. These are the attribute names. Then after that, closing this parenthesis, values, and inside this parenthesis we need to pass actual values or records that we need to store, or that we want to store inside our table. So this is nothing but a insert query. Then next is a update command. This update command is used whenever we want to modify our records, or we want to change something from our record. Okay, so whenever we want to change the existing records, at that time we'll use update command. For that also we need to establish the connection with the database, and then con.execute. Here we need to write the update inside double quote, inside parenthesis update, then table name, set, this is attribute name that we want to change, roll number we want to change from 1 to 5, and for whom? For the student having ID as a 1. So this is nothing but a update command. In this way it will work, and it will update or change the given record. It will change the roll number of the student which is having ID as a 1. Then after update command we are having next command as a delete command. which will be used to remove the records from the table. Okay, so the syntax for this particular is a, again we are establishing connection with the database, and then con dot execute. Okay, inside the parenthesis, inside double quote, we are writing delete from. This is nothing but a table name that we have created where id is equal to 2. So here we want to delete the record of the student who is having id as a 2. So this is delete command. So these are the different operations that we can perform over the database, which is available in the record. So what we have covered in this particular session, we'll just revise. Just start the pane. Okay. So the topic that we have started is a Python database connectivity. Okay. So in this, initially we have seen what is database, what is DBMS, that is database management system. Then in this we have seen SQL can be used as a query language for the database, but in case of this particular practical we are using SQLite 3. So this SQLite 3 is inbuilt available inside Python. It does not require any type of server for installation. Then we have seen in SQL what are different queries. So we have seen how to create the table. Then we have seen how to insert the records in the table. After that, how to update the table. And last, we have understood how we can delete the records from the table. Along with this, we are also having one more query, that is select query. Using this query, we can view the records that we have inserted inside the table. That we'll see in the implementation part. Okay, so now we'll go to the implementation part. I have demonstrated, or I can demonstrate you with the help of the Jupyter notebook or Google Colab file. So we'll move to that particular Google Colab file for implementation purpose. So here is the it is the Google Colab file for the program. Okay, so for what we have done in this program, we'll understand one by one. So first of all, we have imported the packages. As usual in any Python program, if there is need of any packages, we need to import the packages. So here I have imported pandas package. So I will tell you why we have included this pandas package later on. Then we have imported SQLite 3, as we want to connect with the SQLite 3 database, so we need to import this package. Then we are going to connect to the SQL database. So for that, there is a connection method. Here we are passing name of the database here that we want to create. So employee.db, this database we want to create. Then we are having this connect method inside SQLite 3 package, and we are creating this object of the particular SQLite.connect method. Okay. So what it will do, it will create this database and will save the database. So you can see this particular database whenever it is created in the folder which is available left side. This Google Colab left side section we are having last, that is folder. So here you will get that particular database created whenever you run the program. Okay. So here we are also creating the connection object. So cursor object we are using for creating cursor object. This cursor method we are having inside SQLite 3. So con.cursor, and we'll create the object named as a cursor. Then this is the query that can be used. So whenever, if the employee.db table already exists inside your database, it will show error whenever you try to repeatedly execute the create query. Okay, so at that time what we need to do, we need to drop, we need to write this drop table query, so it will delete the previous table and will create the new table. Then after that we are having this query. So there are different syntax we can say for writing the queries. So what we are doing, we are creating one variable here is equal to triple quotes. If you just observe, create table and table name. EMP is nothing but a table name. Inside the parenthesis, we are having EMP ID as an attribute, name as an attribute, then age as an attribute, address and gender. These are the attributes. Whenever we are mentioning these attributes, we need to also mention the data type for that. So int, that is nothing but a integer data type. So id will be always in the numeric form, that is integer. Name will be a collection of alphabets we can say, so we can use char, and we are also providing size, that is 20. Age is always integer type, and also we can mention the size. Address, we can have character type, or we can also write text here, and we need to mention the size of character. So as here address will be having multiple number of characters, okay, so that's why 50 we are providing, and then we are having gender, which will be also character. So after closing this parenthesis of this table, this is starting parenthesis and this is closing parenthesis. So we have to close this particular triple quotes that we are writing. Okay, so whenever we want to write this query as a multiple line, so at that time we need to provide the triple quotes here. Now if you just observe here, inside this particular table we are having attribute as a employee ID. We are also mentioning some few keywords here. First, primary key. Why primary key? Because ID, we want ID to be generated as a unique. Okay, so every employee will be having one unique ID that will not be repeated. That's why we need to provide primary key. Then not null. ID should not be null. Okay, in the same way, name also should not be null. There should be some value whenever we are inserting the records in the database. So whenever there are no values for employee ID and name, records will not be inserted into database. Okay, so this is nothing but a way how we can write the query. This is the one way. I will also tell you another way for writing the query. We have stored this query inside one variable that is named as a query. Now I want to create this table. I have only written this query here, but if I want to create the table, I need to execute this query. So what is the syntax? What is our connection object? Cursor. What it will do? Cursor object has stored the employee.db connection string. So cursor.execute whenever I write this query, and whenever I write this particular instruction, and whenever I pass this query to this particular execute statement, it will execute the create table command and will create the table with these attributes. Attributes are nothing but a columns in the table. So how it will create the structure whenever we execute the query? It will create the tabular structure here. So inside this table we'll be having employee ID. So here we will have table. Whenever create table executes the query, it will create the table. How many attributes are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attributes. So it will create the 5 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there should be one more column, 5. So in this way table will be created, which will be currently blank. There is no data inside the table, but here we will be having headers. So first employee ID, second name, then third we are having age, address, and then we are having gender. Okay, so in this way table will be created, or schema for the table will be created whenever we try to execute this create table query. So now as we proceed further, we have created the table. Now we want to insert the records inside the table. Okay, so to insert the table we need to fire the insert query over the particular database. Okay, so to fire that insert query, if you just observe here, same object we are using, cursor dot execute. So inside parenthesis we are writing this query. This is the another way for writing the query, where what we are doing, we are writing this query in single line. Okay, so insert into table name. What we want to insert? Employee ID, name, age, address and gender. Okay, what are the values that we want to insert inside this? What will be employee ID? So inside values parenthesis we need to provide the actual values that are to be inserted in the records. Okay, so employee ID 1, name Amer, age 27, address Bangalore and gender male. Okay, so in this way we can write the insert query. I will just go to the end. Okay, so here values parenthesis will be closed, then double quotes. So we are writing this particular insert query inside the double quotes and then we'll be closing the parenthesis of execute function. Okay, in the same way I have also written the insert query for another 3 records. So we are totally having we are inserting 4 records inside our database or inside our table, 1, 2, 3 and 4 records. Okay, then next we are having con dot commit. So it will verify that whether our queries have been executed successfully or not. Okay, so whenever there is an error while execution of the queries, it will show the error. That is the task of con dot commit. So it will ensure that the previous transaction is successfully executed. Then next command will be select command, where if I want to fetch the records from the database. Okay, so at that time we can write this select command. What is the syntax? Select star from emp. Emp is a table name. Why we are using star? Because we want to fetch all the records available in the table. Whenever we want to fetch specific records, at that time we can modify this particular query. Okay, so cursor dot execute, we pass the query select star from emp. Then on the cursor object we'll have this fetch all method, which will fetch all the records from the given table, that is emp. Okay, and it will store all the records inside this rows object or rows variables. So if you just see this rows, it will work as a list, or it will, the data type for this rows variable is a list. So if you just observe, these are the records, those are stored in this. It is showing that there are 4 items inside, or 4 elements inside this table, which are stored as a list. Now after storing all the records inside this rows variable, which will work as a list, I want to display these particular records one by one. For that I will be using for loop here. Okay. So what this for loop will do, it will display the elements from the row list, that is rows one by one. Okay. After that, again I will be writing query select star from emp. This is another method, triple quotes. Inside that we are writing this query and we are closing this triple quotes. Now in Python, if you just observe, there is no method through which we can display the records as in the form of table. Okay, so whenever we want to display the tabular data, Python is not having any inbuilt function for that. So that's why we need to take help of external package, that is nothing but a pandas. So pandas will be able to display the records in the form of table, that is rows and columns format. So Python is not having capability. That's why we need to import this pandas package. So initially during the start of the program, I have told to you we need to import the pandas as PD. So that is the purpose, as we need to display the data in the tabular format. Okay. So here what we are doing, PD, there is a function PD dot read SQL query. So pandas can read SQL query and will convert the records in the specified format. So read SQL query, it will read this query. Okay, this is first parameter. What is that query? Select star from emp. For which connection object? Con. Okay, So con is having our database actually, where our table is stored, and we are storing inside db underscore query. So whatever output we will get for this particular pandas will be stored inside db underscore query. Now whatever contents are there inside this variable, we will want to display it in tabular format. So in pd or pandas we are having data frame as a function which will convert this db underscore query records into tabular format and will store in the variable, that is df. Okay, and then we are going to display this df variable which will display our records in the form of table, that is rows and columns format. And then con dot commit, so it will verify whether previous transaction or previous query is executed successfully or not. If it is not getting executed successfully, then it will show the error. Now I will try to run this particular program and we'll see what kind of output we'll get. So I have executed the program. If you just see here, we'll have this employee.db file which will be created as soon as I will execute the program. Then we'll check the output. We'll discuss update and delete later on, but first of all we'll see what is the output. Okay, so all records from the emp table. If you just see, we have used for loop, so these records are getting displayed one by one. This is first list, first record, sorry, this is first record from the given list, second record, third record and fourth record. Okay, so which will be stored as the elements in the list. Then next we have used pandas, where we can get the available table in the rows and columns format. Okay, so this is the logic, or we can say magic, of the pandas library or package, where we can display the data in the tabular format. Now next queries are like update and delete. So for that, here, so con dot execute update, this is table name emp, set age is equal to 30, where employee id is equal to 1. Previously age of this particular employee which is having id as a 1 was 27. We'll just check the record in the output. So id 1, and what is the age? It is 27. Okay, so now we'll implement this update query or update command. What we are doing in this update command, we are updating the age of the person who is having id as a 1. So after execution of this particular command, we'll also see the result con dot execute select star from emp. Once again it will fetch the record and we'll check the output. So if you just see, this is the output for first person, for the person who is having id as a 1, age previously it was 27 and now it is changed to 30. In the previous table only you can see employee id 1, name Ame, age it was 27, but later on with the help of update command we have updated this age. In the same way we can update any records available in the table. Then next is a delete command. So con dot execute, what it will do, delete from emp table where employee id is equal to 2. So for us employee id 2, we'll check who is having employee id as a 2. So Naren is having employee id as a 2, age 30, address Hyderabad and gender male. So we are trying to delete this record, and after performing this delete operation, okay, so we are displaying the contents using select command. So it will fetch all the records after deleting this particular record of second person. So if you just see here, there is a record for Ame, then Purva who is having id as a 3, but the person who is having id 2, record for that person is missing here in this. Okay, so that we have deleted using the delete command. So in this way we can establish the connection with the database. The database that we have used here is SQLite, which is near to Python. So we have understood how to establish the connection between Python and database in this particular tutorial. Okay, so now I will stop here. Okay, so if you have any queries, you can raise the queries, or you can send the queries to me. In the next video, we'll also uh, understand how we can connect our Python with the MySQL database. So thank you for watching my video.